A good piece of music is like a good painting. I wish I could paint like a Bach fugue, where you throw pieces of music at each other, they argue and resolve it. That's what you do in a painting. Areas of dark, areas of light. Narrow passages, broad passages, pale and tinted and so on. And they discuss it among themselves on the canvas, and when they're resolved, the painting is finished. We laid down a fairly firm basis in geometry, anatomy, and all sorts of other things that could be used or discarded later on as we developed in our own right.
Was that a good foundation?
But it didn't do me any harm, because when you discard something, you know what you're doing. When you don't know anything about it, you don't know what you're doing.
Some would say that, it's not a sort of contemporary way of teaching. And do you think then we've lost something in not teaching those basics?
We've changed. Whether we've lost something or not, I don't know. We've changed from one outlook to another. I'm still not certain that the present outlook is a permanent one, because skills seem to be at a discount, shall we say, and knowledge appears to interfere with self-expression. And I don't wear those things. I think the better equipped you are, the better the job you make as a professional. And from Professor James Shelley, who introduced us to modern movements.
And what was that like?
Well, it was great fun. We started to see what Van Gogh was up to and why Cézanne was regarded as a great painter. Previously we'd stopped short at the Impressionists and no one seemed game to carry on from there. But Shelley broke through, as he broke through everything. Previously, everything, all the disciplines in painting were governed by what the eye saw, not what the mind knew. And this tremendous shift fractured the visual image forever. No one has been able to paint the same since Cézanne.
And more specifically, did it affect what you were doing?
It made me think again. I didn't do imitation Cézanne's. That would be ridiculous. That's just imitating his brush marks without imitating or following the same line of thought as he did. I tried to follow the same line of thought as he did, and inside my own terms I came to understand my environment very much better than I'd had previously when I painted pretty pictures of nice looking scenery, which isn't painting at all, it's just decoration, really.
That first trip to England was in 1947?
Yes.
So that had a profound effect on you in, if you like, by contrast, defining that New Zealand was a different place.
Oh yes, it was quite a shock really. It took me some months to come to terms with the new means of expression I saw there. I didn't realise that paint could do that sort of thing, apart from reporting appearances of things, which was what we were mainly concerned with here. And to find a painting done 150 years before by Turner, which had frightened the pants off you for sheer power and brutality of expression. This was a real eye-awakener. Then, of course, I came across the Courtauld collection. There was Cézanne's still life there, which fascinated me. And I had a look at it for a long time. Then I went out to the entrance room where the Manet was hung, and there was no one at home. It was an external portrait of appearances, deftly done. There was no mind functioning behind it, and I went straight back to the Cézanne. It was a wonderful experience. What a breakthrough, to realise that I've been deceiving myself all these years. And we spent quite a while in the Louvre and in the Museum of Modern Art. And there was a room full of major Picassos. Oh dear, what a hammering I got. I didn't know that painting could do that on a flat canvas, that it could carry so much weight, purpose and direct message. It was dumbfounding. I needed a good strong cup of tea after that, after viewing that exhibition, I can tell you. Instead of being entertained by painting, we were bullied, we were instructed, we were commanded, we were directed. It was first-rate stuff from the top master. I saw New Zealand for the first time. I'd been painting in a style which had been evolved in a totally different country, a totally different climate, a different civilization. It fitted perfectly in there, but to come back here and find that everything is harsh, sharp and brilliant and rather raw was quite a shock. There, for example, you see parish churches, been there for hundreds of years, built up out the stone that they rest upon, they grow out of the ground. Here we had wooden boxes with tin roofs perched on top of the ground, and the next wind would blow them away. Everything was so temporary. We haven't even got that permanent feel yet. We have pockets of this ruralism, which is our native quality. The rest of it, unfortunately, is becoming imitation American. We can't do much about that because that's where the money is. Quite a trial, painting a portrait. You're under stress all the time. You can't relax because you know you're using an important person's time up, and it must be used to the very best of your ability. Well, I can't keep that going very long. That is why I prefer painting and inventing landscape forms. I'm my own master, and it doesn't matter if I don't paint for 3 hours. I can just watch it for 3 hours.
So it's quite a high pressure exercise in a way.
It certainly is.
Have you ever painted somebody that in the process you've felt you've gotten to know something about them and you've disliked them?
Oh yes. I won't mention any names, of course, but curious streaks come out in some people, the things they do and the things they say. And when their attitude to me when we started the portrait is quite different from their attitude when I finished it. There's a big character change.
You mean that some antipathy has grown up between you, maybe?
That's possibly it. And it's possibly the fact that they knew nothing about painting at the start, and by the time I finished the portrait, they knew all about it. It brings out the worst and the best in people sometimes. Doesn't it, Pussy?
But
good painting exists in its own right as an immediate response. You don't need to go through a story to get to the value of a painting any more than you have to read up about a piece of music before you can enjoy it. It's an immediate enjoyment, an immediate understanding. That is where some contemporary art forms, especially conceptual art, in my opinion, have failed. In that conceptual art is an assemblage of disparate subject matter, and the more dissociated the units are, the loftier the prose to describe them. It's just playing charades on a grand scale. I once asked a practitioner in Christchurch of visual arts, of the conceptual art, if I were to empty my dustbin out on the gallery floor and call it a week in the life of the artist, would that be acceptable as conceptual art? He said yes. I then knew that conceptual art doesn't belong among the fine arts. It's part of anthropology. This is quite a different thing from historians. Art historians are a valuable section of the community. They make us aware of what's going on now and how it relates to past events. And there's been some excellent work done in the field of art history at Canterbury and elsewhere. I have the greatest respect for them. To keep the ideals of past generations alive so that we can contemplate them and see how far we've changed from them. I won't say how far we've developed, because we don't develop, we just change. One aspect of painting can react to another, but that's not necessarily a development, it's a response. Either a forging ahead from the initial idea or a reaction against it. As with Impressionism, which was pure optics, flecks of colour the eye saw were recorded and the image assembled on the canvas if you got the flecks of colour in the right place. And of course it was immediately followed by Cubism. Cézanne and Cubism, where the substance itself became important, not the appearance of it. And of course Cubism took it to extremes and then it fragmented, it became pattern after its early stages of explaining in a very brutal fashion the fundamental structure of things. And so on, art goes like a pendulum, but the theorists don't do it. They may blow on it to try to influence it, but it doesn't. The artists will work it out for themselves.